8th Annual Conference on the Persian Gulf in Israel, the title of which is Iran and Israel, Past and Present. This year we decided to dedicate the theme of the conference to the evaluation of the relations between Iran and Israel, and we have a range of very interesting topics and speakers. We don't claim to be able to cover all aspects of this interesting topic in one day and in one conference. And surely there will be other conferences under this general theme. There are many issues and aspects of these relations yet to be researched and analyzed, and we hope that today we have taken the first step in this direction. I believe that as an Iranian born who lives in Israel, and I believe that I speak on behalf of many others who share with me this schizophrenia, the animosity that exists today and during the last 37 years between the two relative governments, and to some extent also the peoples, disheartens me and the other people very much. It is due to this that we at the Esri Center have taken a number of initiatives for the amelioration of this situation, which is quite abnormal for many of us. Through the Tehtel or Tehran Haifa Tel Aviv site in Persian, we try to familiarize the Iranian society with the realities of the Israeli society. And through the Iran Culture Series in Hebrew, we aim to introduce Hebrew translations of masterpieces of the Iranian culture to the Israeli public. We believe that today's conference is yet another step in a better understanding of the past and present of these two people, countries and governments, as well as of their mutual sensitivities. Although the conference is not specifically on or about the late Mr. Meir Ezri and his role in the Iran-Israel relations, one cannot, and especially myself as the director of the Esri Center, hold a conference on those relations without at least mentioning him and his contribution in this field. Esri was the first of 3 Israeli ambassadors to Tehran during the rule of the second and last Pahlavi kings. Esri was the right man in the right place during the right circumstances. In the period of anti-Israeli and anti-Iranian pan-Arabism of the 1950s and 1960s, Esri, a bright Iranian-born young member of the Mapai party, who knew the Persian language, culture and way of life, seemed the right candidate to the then Israeli Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, for carrying out and implementing the Iranian axis of his periphery doctrine. For Ben-Gurion, the interests of Iran and Israel were so identical at the time that when Esri asked him what he expected him to do in Iran, Ben-Gurion replied, "You should be an Iranian serving Iranian interests, and by doing so you will be serving Israel interests as well." Esri's term as ambassador between 1958 to 1973 was a golden era for Iran and Israel relations, during which Esri managed to forge deep diplomatic, strategic, security, intelligence, scientific, agriculture, and even cultural relations with Iran. His contribution to the Iran-Israel relation in their formative period could be described as immense, and there is much room for future research on his role beyond his memoirs, which have been published in Persian, Hebrew, and English. I could say much more in this respect, but I will leave it to Mrs. Efrat Sofer, granddaughter of the late Mr. Esri, who is currently a PhD student at LSE, doing research on what else, Iran-Israel relations during the Pahlavi period, to shed more light at the end of this conference on Mr. Esri, the man and the diplomat. Well, personally, I think I should also mention here another ambassador, the second, Mr. Lubrani, that I had the pleasure also to work with him for a few years, and his role was also quite immense. and I wish him long life and good health because he's in a very fragile situation. The period of the two ambassadorship in Tehran divides the revolutionary Iran-Israel relation into two sub-periods, each with its own unique characteristics, which are a result of their different characters and the changing domestic, regional, and international circumstances. And this is, of course, another issue to be researched. Before we begin with the first session, I would like to thank Professor Reuven Snir, Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, and Professor Gula Roy, Head of the School of History, for their financial support to this conference. Special thanks go to Mr. Meir Javzantar, an expert on Iranian affairs and currently a PhD student at the Department of Middle Eastern Studies at the University of Haifa, and Ms. Arin Halabi, just behind there, the Secretary of the Esri Center, who have both helped greatly in organizing this conference. I would also like to thank the speakers and the chairman. The speakers from out of Israel have recorded their lectures on video, and I thank them as well as the speakers from Israel for their contribution to this unique event. I wish also to thank the technical staff of the Eshkol Tower building in helping with the technical aspect of the conference. And finally to you, the audience, for attending this conference, which I hope that you will find both interesting and innovating. And now, without further delay, I invite Professor Gad Gilbar, Chair of the first session and the speaker of this session, to take their places. Unfortunately, I would say that Dr. Itzhakov, who is one of the participants, fell ill yesterday and he will therefore not be attending the conference. We wish him, of course, speedy recovery. Thank you very much.